and welcome to another episode of Houston Moms on the Move. This is our series celebrating extraordinary moms in and around the Houston area, designed to inspire, encourage, engage all of you moms who are busy doing all the things at home in the workplace. And today I am thrilled to have Chantell Preston with us today. She is a woman who wears many hats. We were trying to decide on her specific title, but she is a healthcare executive. She owns a dance bar. She is a chauffeur. She is a purveyor of all things at home, providing cocktails, snacks, all the things that moms do. And she's very much a women's proponent. So, Chantell, we're so glad to have you here today.
Thanks, Megan, for having me.
Yeah. So I gave kind of like a big, large intro. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and you are a Houston native as well, right?
I am. So kind of like you said, I wear many hats. My background is in healthcare. I've been a healthcare executive since I got out of college. Really enjoy being in that corporate America, entrepreneur by background. My main business was rehab for traumatic brain injury patients. But over the years, we kind of fluctuate with what's important to us. And over the last 5 years, I've really been focusing more on women empowerment, spending time with my kids, opening a dance studio, as you mentioned, in Bel Air, and really just enjoying life and continuing to work in that healthcare world, but really focusing more in regards to helping other women, empowering them.
I love it. And one thing that a lot of people don't know about Houston Moms is it's actually co-owned by myself and Jared King, who is a dad in town. And I understand that you guys used to coach softball against each other or together. What was that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's together. I'd say probably against. But yes, Jared and I both have been involved with the Westview Softball Association for many, many years. I'm still on the board with WUSA. Again, loving to spend time with my kids, but also just loving being part of the community. And so Jared and I have coached against each other. I always won, just for the record. I always won, just so everybody knows. But really enjoying spending time with our girls and watching them grow as athletes.
Yeah. So, well, way to take him down.
Nothing better than being beat by a girl. Okay. I do say that every once in a while to the male coaches. So yes, that is a lot of fun, but it's so important for us women to coach our girls because we just coach differently. And so I really enjoyed, and I hope more women will continue to do that as my kids age out.
Well, and that's so funny you should say that because I wrote an article a handful of years ago about where are all the mom coaches? Because I grew up playing competitive ball, soccer, and played a year at LSU. Didn't go well for me, but I did it. And but I always dreamed of coaching my kids. And they didn't even make jerseys that I could wear. They weren't in women's sizes. They were huge, medium larges on me that did not work. And I was coaching against men every single weekend. And I'm like, where are my women? We are more than just handing out orange slices, right? So I know that's going to speak into your heart a little bit. Tell us, how
Oh
do you
my God,
feel?
you're talking my language in every
Yes.
aspect. It's fascinating because when I got involved, and again, WUSA, we are the largest softball association, so I can only speak on that side of my experience with WUSA. We've seen a transition over the years of a lot more women starting to coach. But here's what I hear from moms. Well, I don't know anything about it. Well, I don't have the time. Well, it's better for the dads. No, it's not. We are just as capable as the men to coach our daughters. I mean, that's just a reality. And it's a different mindset a little bit than the male. It was fascinating because when I first got involved, I went to one of their programs and they said, girls have to have fun to win and boys have to win to have fun. And at first I was like, that's the most sexist thing I've ever heard. I hate that. We should all be treated equal. And then I realized they're so true. And so when being female and being able to, interact with the kids and really focusing on them and growing as a person, and the more fun they had, the more we would win.
better they did.
That's
Yeah.
right. And the guys always thought I was doing something different when we were, drafting. I was like, no, I drafted for the kids that always had a smile on their face. The kids that, I'd remember them by something they would be wearing and have a personality, not necessarily the technical skills, but yet who are the kids that really wanted to be there? And those are the kids you can help develop and have a
Yeah.
great time and make a huge impact, not just on the softball field, but in their lives as a whole.
And they will remember you for that. And I've always said, give me the kid who is passionate, that is loving the game and wants, like you said, wants to be there. It's easier to tame a fanatic than raise a corpse, you know? And I don't want to try to make somebody who like doesn't want to play. They're there because their mom said they had to. That's zero fun for anyone. And I also think it's cool that we kind of get to like show off our skills a little bit, right? Like, I remember being at a soccer practice and my assistant coach was a guy and he was like, well, just take the shot and show the kids how it's done. And I don't remember this, but he recounted the story and I apparently kicked the ball and it just like sailed into the back corner of the net and the girls went crazy. Um, just showing that like, you know what, women and moms can do this too. And not to take away from the men
Not at
or the
all.
fathers who spend their time and volunteer, and that may be the way that they're, spending time with their kids, and that's great. But I do love some female representation out there.
Hey, we could do both. And I got to a certain point where I was like, do I really have the technical skills to continue to coach these kids?
Right.
I actually just came off of assistant coaching Presbyterian's varsity softball team
Oh,
as the
wow.
parent liaison. And it was great because I didn't really have the technical skills when they get to a certain age, but
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun, And if you can inspire these kids and they want to have fun, growing up with my daughter, I would always partner myself with the folks that had the better technical skills than me so we could have a great combination. It's like anything in life, bring in the person that fills your gaps. And so that's what I would always do. And so they got to see both sides of it. But again, like you said, it's important for them to see the women representation, especially being a female sport. And I do think we're seeing that. I would love to see more of it.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, I know I totally just like skipped the ball there, straight into that. But so tell me about your family at home, just so we have some reference.
So great. I have three daughters. I have a 14-year-old and twin 7-year-olds, and then I have a partner. And so we have a very chaotic life like everyone else. Everyone's overscheduled. We got tons of stuff happening. So again, it's like every other family. We just try to figure out how to get through the days.
I forgot that you had twins too. So I have twin boy and girl twins, and they just turned 15 2 weeks ago, which is like terrifying to me. And we've started the whole driving process. So enjoy 14 because 15 will just come at you real fast.
Yeah,
Like,
I feel like every phase of their lives have been, one thing I wish somebody would have told me is just how quickly the time goes by. You don't realize, I always said days are long, years are short. And I think that's a very true statement. So every phase will go by so quickly. Enjoy every single one of them.
well, and it does, I feel like, become a cliche to say that, but then you're sitting on the precipice of, for me, like my kids are going to go to college in 4 years. Like, what the hell happened over
Right.
the last 15 years? Like, crazy. So, tell me a little bit about your parenting journey. What has surprised you the most?
So, I grew up in the corporate world where I never wanted children because I was so hugely concerned that it would impact my career. And so I waited really late in life to have kids. And my daughter Addison is now 14. I was 37 at the time. And you just realize it's never a good time. And so
Mm,
I had my daughter, and I have to tell you, it was the greatest decision I ever made, even though I never thought I wanted it because I didn't realize how much it would transition me as a person.
mm.
And but I was very concerned that it was going to impact my career. And so I think initially it took a lot to get used to. And then one day that wake up call of, oh my gosh, where did the 5 years go? And what did I miss out on? I've really just changed my whole perspective. And I've also realized that being a parent's made me a better leader at work. And so there's so many things that, we think that we learn everything at work. No, I learned so much at home that you realize how much they're threaded together and how beneficial they can be on both sides.
Yeah, and I think this, at least for me, it makes me a better boss too, because especially if I have women like I do underneath me, it makes me more compassionate to what they're going through. And it makes me want more for them and better for them in a separate space too. Because I think a big fear of moms is that we lose ourselves, right? So, what is your best advice to the mom who's like maybe sitting and listening to this or watching this and they're like, there's diapers everywhere and kids are running around crazy. It's the summer, so there's like feral children. Um, so what would you say to the mom who's like, I, I, I'm more than a mom. Like I'm more than just, not just a mom, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Well, first of all, I'll say I think being a mom's harder than being a healthcare executive. I'll just tell you that right now. I would much rather go to work. Sometimes that's easier than staying at home. But
Hmm.
I do think it's very important for us to realize there's value in everything that we do. And I think as women, I'll just say this because I can say this, I'm female. We are so programmed that everything has to be perfect. Everything has to, perfection. We have to be everything to everyone. And we just take so much on ourselves to try to reach this pinnacle that just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Perfection doesn't exist. And I guess I'd say stop sweating the small stuff. I quit worrying about, again, my house being spotless all the time. There's so many things I said before I had kids. Oh, I'll never.
Yeah.
All that went out the door, right? I'll never give my kid a device. I'll never let him eat this. Honestly, we're just trying to get through the days. And I
Yeah.
think as life spins by, don't worry about the small stuff. Don't worry about what someone else is doing. Embrace yourself and who you are. And make sure that though you're taking time for yourself at the same time. You talked about a lot of women lose their identity. So true. And I was so worried about that. I made some very bad decisions. I had my daughter on Friday. I went back to work on Tuesday. Never should have
Oh,
done that. But I thought I was that important that I had to do that. Looking back now, nobody cares. Nobody remembers that other than me.
yeah.
It's important for you to embrace that and embrace who you are and take care of yourself, whether that's a little me time every once in a while, but don't sweat the small stuff. Perfection doesn't exist, but also learn to say no to things that you don't want to do or don't help you reach your ultimate goals. Because we have
Yeah.
a tendency to take on everybody else's stuff. We got to be there for everybody, take care of everybody. But why? And why is everyone else's joy and happiness more important than ours? And I think those are some important things to remember.
I think that is one of the toughest things I've had to do as a mom is set aside because, and my kids still believe me when I say this, but every hour there's something that reminds me of them or a mom. Like even if I'm working or well, and I have a parenting website. So I mean, mom is kind of like it's like ingrained. But even if I'm out with a friend, there's something that bring all of my stories are about kids and whatnot. And um, carrying it's not a bad mental load all the time, but it can become a problem. How do you share your mental load with your partner, your friends? What does that look like so you're not carrying the entire burden?
Well, I think I've had to figure out how to set boundaries.
Mm,
Again, I can't take on everything for everyone. So a couple things that I do at home is, everybody needs to contribute at home. I think sometimes we as females get all of that on our own backs that we have to do everything ourselves because nobody else is going to do it, right? So it's about contributing at home. Why am I the only one doing it? And really establishing who's doing what. I, people say, wait, you don't do this with your daughter. You don't make her clean her room. No, you want to live in it. You live in it, but shut the door. And again, teaching them responsibility and
mm,
accountability is important, but also why should that become my headache? And so there's
yeah.
certain things that I've had to kind of let go of. At work, it's really hard too because it's like you're juggling so many things. I'll be the first to say for all you parents out there, I forgot my daughter yesterday. Okay, so don't think it doesn't happen to the best of us. I was so engrossed in work. I just had a ton of stuff going on. Had meeting after meeting, and I get that text message is, Mom, who's picking me up from school? She's in summer school right now. Who's picking me up from school? Oh my God, I forgot you. And her school's 25 minutes from my office. And so, we all go through those things,
Yeah.
but I got to give myself some self compassion too, because
Yes.
again, we're going 100 miles an hour. And I did tell her when I picked her up, I thought it was funny. At least it's the end of the school season, not the beginning. I thought that was funny. She did not think it was that funny. But we have to, as parents, give ourselves a little self compassion too, because we are living in a world of just things moving so quickly. And if you're working or if you have other kids, it's about trying to figure out that juggle. And that's just a hard juggle. And so we're all struggling. And if somebody tells me they're not, they're lying.
Oh yeah. I mean, Instagram is the biggest offender, I think, of showing kind of like these perfect lives of these moms who never drop the ball. And I'm more of the, I guess some imagery that has always stayed with me is we're juggling all the balls. Like we tried our best not to drop the glass balls, right? Like those are like the super important ones. And then there are going to be some plastic ones that fall. And, kids may be forgotten and what they don't understand is that you're always on our minds.
Right. I did say, well, at least it was the 14-year-old, not the 7-year-olds I forgot. So at least you can stand here for 20 minutes and wait for
Yes.
it. So I thought at that point I was winning because it wasn't the younger ones. And you asked me about how do you keep your own self-identity. I do have a group of friends that I think it's really important that we don't talk about our kids. We don't talk about, have some friends that's not always the conversation because sometimes you just need a place or a safe place to go and not have to always be having that conversation. And that helps me really keep the things that I'm passionate about that I want to talk about. It gives me a safe place to do that. And I think, we just get in that habit of when we're around our friends, we only talk about our kids, we talk about our spouse, we talk about our jobs. What else are we want to talk about? And I think that that's really important to have those friends that you can have those conversations. It reminds you of what you're passionate about and what you really enjoy and brings you joy.
I think that's such an important point, and you almost just like kind of convinced me. I'm not even kidding, to go to my book club tonight because we have book club, and I happen to be one of the elder members of the book club. Like it trends towards a younger demo than the 45-year-old me. It's a lot of young 30s, and bless you all who are in your young 30s. I love you dearly. But we don't talk about kids. We talk about the books we're reading. We talk about the wine we're drinking. I mean, because it's not just book club. And so, okay, like maybe I'm changing my evening plans because I was kind of like on the fence, right? Because a lot of times, I'm sure you feel this too. You just want to kind of just be at home a little bit and
For sure.
um, like,
That also gives you a reason to go read that book and take that 30 minutes
yeah.
yourself every day. And people always say, how do you make time? None of us have extra time. Let's not kid ourselves. We are running the minute we wake up till the moment we lay down in bed, if we can sleep. And so we're running. And so I had to learn to like schedule meetings with myself. We don't break
Mm,
meetings with other people. We don't not show up for appointments. So why do we do it to ourselves? And so I got into a habit a few years ago of 1 hour every day I go for a walk. Doesn't mean I may listen to a book, I may listen to a podcast, I may talk on the phone, I may talk to but it's 1 hour that I get to choose how am I going to spend it for me?
mm.
And even if it's being productive, at least I'm walking at the same time. So I feel like I'm getting exercise. Well, that helps my mental, that helps my physical. So again, it's finding those things that, again, are important to you and making sure that you hold that space for you. And that's not easy to do, but I try to do it as much as I can.
The scheduling, I think, is super important because how full are our calendars of, at least mine is like color coded for
Yeah,
child A, child B, family, whatever. But I don't, I'm the first to schedule or first to cancel my own appointment, like,
right. But why do you do that? I mean, is your joy, is theirs more important than yours? I mean, again, that's why I keep going back to I am a better mom and a better person and a better leader by taking that time for myself. And I didn't realize that till probably about 3 or 4 years ago,
wow.
of what a huge difference it makes when I have that time for me.
And, those endorphins firing are such an important thing. And, I don't want to live in the land of mom martyrdom, like that's not fun. I do know that when I'm with friends or come home, I'm like, I am a happier person. And I'm a happier person when I actually do my hair and take a real shower. And, like
Little victories, celebrate the little victories.
the
Exactly.
little victories of the everything shower. Like, so I think my 30, 20 somethings who are listening, they understand the everything shower. You know what the everything shower is, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So I mean, that is a gift to myself.
Yeah.
If I exfoliate, I do like the double cleanse shampoo, the mask, the shave, the whole thing. Um, so what strategies besides kind of, scheduling your time, do you want to share with our moms, especially our younger moms, of how to really have a balance in your life? What does that look like?
I'm a big one for not using the word balance because I don't think you ever find a balance. I
No?
think you have to figure out how to integrate, how to ebb and flow with what's going on in your life at that time. And, we're all so programmed to look at the future, the future. But what about right now?
Mm,
I like the win analogy of what's important now. What do I need to do right now in the phase that I'm in? I don't want to say to survive to the next one because sometimes that's how we all feel. But how do I get there and not go crazy in the meantime? And again, not sweating the small stuff. I've
yeah.
given up the perfect house. I've given up what other people think. Easier said than done, of course. But I think as you get more comfortable with you and the decisions that you make, we think people are judging us and they're not. I
Yeah.
used to be like, oh, my kid's got to be dressed perfectly every day, hair done. Now it's like, look, if we get out of the house in time to make it before the tardy bell, I don't care what you're wearing or what your hair looks like. Let's just roll. And I
Yeah.
think that, the more we realize that we're all doing the same thing, I think it's easier it makes it. And so I want people to know they're not the only ones going through this because we're all going through it.
I love the win thing. Say that again. What's
When
that?
what's important now?
What's important now?
Life ebbs and flows. I mean, kind of my mindset 10 years ago is very different than my mindset now. 5 years ago, very different. And so, where are you in the place in your life and what's important now versus worrying about 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I always tell people, great, look 2 or 3 years from now, but really what's going to be important in the next 6 months because
Yeah.
life can change so quickly.
I love that so much. I'm going to use that today too. Thank you. So obviously with three kiddos at home, what and they see you doing, a lot of things, a lot of different hats. How do you talk to them about what mom does, and help them understand that they are still a very big part of the equation, but they're not the whole equation?
Oh, great question. I had to do this recently because my kids are like, why are you traveling again? You said you weren't going to travel. I didn't know what to do because I had always said, keep, leave work at the door, right? Don't bring it in the house. And
Mhm.
a friend of mine said, well, why don't you just tell him what you're doing? Why don't you just explain to him why it's important? And I did. Such something so simple. I set them down. I said, hey, look, this is why I'm doing it. I really enjoy working. I love my passion, my purpose, and I feel like I've never worked a day in my life because I love doing it. And this is why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I want to help others. With our dance studio, I spent a lot of time at the dance studio. Why?
Yeah.
Because I want to help these young kids, empower them to be their best selves. And so there's things that I explain to them. I'm doing it because I want to help others. And I want you to know that when you get to my age, you can accomplish anything in your life.
Yeah.
I do want to be that good role model. And so it's really bringing them in. Now they go to the dance studio, they come to my office with me. Sometimes they'll travel with me, but really them seeing me be me and be comfortable, whether it's my executive persona or my fun mom persona,
Yeah.
they get to see all sides. And I think that's important for our kids to understand that because the more they understand, the more they accept it. That doesn't mean I don't, and I tell them sometimes, I mean, I can't always be at everything, but I really try to be intentional with my time to make sure that I'm still there for them on those important events. But I don't feel like I need to be the one taking them to practice every day and sitting there for an hour and a half. So I'm very intentional with my time to make sure that I am appropriately utilizing my time so I can be there for the big times.
And I love how you put it as an outward focus thing. Because I think the more that we're raising kids that are kind and compassionate and outward focused, that's translated. So you brought up the dance bar, and we're going to tell this story real quick and then we'll go into rapid fire. But um, it's a really unique story of how you started this dance bar. So can you kind of share a little bit about that?
Sure. My daughter was 11 at the time, had been dancing for a long time at another studio. And Shirley Ballas out of the UK came to visit us, and she decided to take my daughter on as a dancer. And so Shirley Ballas is the queen of Latin ballroom in the UK. She runs the Dancing with the Stars over there. Her son is Mark Ballas. So it was a great opportunity for my daughter. She said, I would love to train your daughter, but you just have to do everything I tell you to do. And I'm like, okay, great. How hard can it be? Right. So we started going back and forth training in LA. And at 12, and me having other children, that became very hard on me. And plus, I got my businesses to run. And so I said, look, if I open a dance studio in my town, will you help me and talk the instructors into moving to Houston? And so I did. I opened the dance bar, HTX. I was able to convince the teachers out in LA to move to Houston. They were in the process of having a child and they wanted to start a family and build a home here. And so we started the dance bar. I never in a million years expected it to transition to what it is. We're about 3 years in now. We have about 90 kids. We both have the ballroom side, but we also have the commercial side. And I love every minute of it. I didn't realize how much I was going to learn from these kids. I'm
Mm.
a big one for mental resilience. Obviously, the softball stories, the things I'm doing now. And so I tell parents all the time, if you're looking for the dance studio where you pay them $500 for the frou-frou dress at the recital, we're not your place. If you're looking for great technical skills, but also lifelong lessons of how these kids can build mental resilience, as women, how do we confidence, collaboration, how can we compete, but yet support each other, all those things that we can use throughout our entire lives. And that's what I do with the kids. I got trained on mental performance for athletes, so certified in that. So I could help train these girls and these kids, most of them are girls, how to really gain those life skills. And we've just been incredibly successful, along with, I don't know anything about dance, but along with my instructors, it's been a great journey.
I think it's the most fun story. I mean, obviously, not everyone has the resources to go and pull
Sure.
like a studio to Houston, but the fact that you're so involved with not knowing a ton about dance, but wanting to dive into the mental aspect of it. My daughter and I have been having a lot of conversations lately around digging in and digging deep and grit. And, what are your goals? And is this supporting your goal or is this taking away from your goal? And they're not always the easiest conversations to have.
No, and we don't always do it the right way too. I mean, you just
Uh,
talked about, we talk about what do a lot of women do? We say yes to everything. We need to take care of everything. Well, we're doing it. How do we expect our kids not to do it? And so if we don't start, role modeling some of this, and this is what's taught me a lot is I got to practice what I preach. And it's been really beneficial for me too, because I can sit here and tell you what to do, but if I'm not doing it, is that really fair? So it's been great for
no.
both of us.
And trust me, when they're 15, they'll call you out on it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah, for
they,
sure.
they will say, and I'm like, I mean, I always jokingly, I'm like, do as I say, not as I do, but we're all just learning.
Right.
But so continual students, I love how you do it. We'll put a link in the show notes on your dance bar. So if anyone wants to find out, it's off Bel Air, right? So it's in town.
It's in Bel Air. That's correct. Off Fulton.
Okay, perfect. So speaking of in town, we're going to go into some rapid fire that we do with all of our guests to find out what you love in and around Houston. So first up, three kiddos, what's your favorite family-friendly restaurant in Houston?
Oh my gosh, Little Matt's. Can't beat it.
Okay, that's always a good one.
Yes, yes. That's our go-to.
And it's so convenient to a lot of, like Houston hotspots, right? Like
Yeah,
Children's Museum and all the zoo. You do that, and then you go to Little Matt's.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Favorite meal to make that everyone likes? Or
Gosh, that's a hard one in our house. I would say the spaghetti always is a hit. Any type of pasta, my kids are all in.
yes. Um, Favorite place in Houston to take your children?
That was a tough one for me to answer. I'm going to say two: Slew Moo and the Color Factory are both favorites of my children. And it's a lot of
Okay.
fun. They're interactive, and so we get to laugh, and we all seem to really enjoy that time together.
I love that. And then favorite thing, we talked about this earlier. What is important is for you to take your time for yourself. What's your favorite thing to do on your own time?
I'm a walker. I could walk for hours. So I just like to be outside in nature, seeing different things and just being present and enjoying the atmosphere while I'm working out. So it's walking for me.
Perfect. And your favorite thing about being a mom?
Oh gosh.
I know.
That's a tough one. My favorite thing about being a mom is being able to mold a young person's thoughts and ideas without telling them what to, guiding them through that process in their journey is my favorite thing, and to watch them grow. That's my favorite
I
about being a mom.
I think it's fascinating when you just see the little people start to develop and they become their own with just, like the guardrails. I was talking to somebody the other day. It's like I'm not trying to just put them on a straight path, but I am setting guardrails on, like what we feel is safe as a family and all of those things. Gosh, I feel like we could talk forever because I have a bunch of questions. I'm gonna have to have you back on
I would love
because
that.
now I have a bunch of questions about how you handle social media and all of the things that affect kind of modern day parenting. So I think we're going to have you back because I think you're a wealth of knowledge. So we will put everything in the show notes. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh my gosh. Well, Megan, thank you for doing all the stuff that you do for us moms out there because
Oh,
again, we got to have a network, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to do that.
thank you. It is our pleasure and kind of the distinct honor of my life, honestly. So thank you so much. We will be back next month with another mom on the move in Houston. And then hopefully we can have Chantell back and she can fill us in on some more wisdom because I enjoyed this conversation so, so very much. But we will see you next month. And until then, stay safe, healthy, Houston.